Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut. I'm here with Bobby Atkins. Bobby, thanks for showing up today.
Always, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. It's actually fun talking about this stuff. I want to get people to understand that this market is an opportunity that is going to be bursting. That is the bubble, is the opportunity. No, there's no houses going to crash. There's none of that stuff. We're so short. We're going to create 1.9 million households this year. And if they start building houses and selling them, which they kind of are starting, and they're only going to do 1.4 million homes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a deficit of 500,000 homes to be added to the 4.5 to 4.7 million home shortage nationwide already. So where's the bubble?
Yeah. So for anybody who was in the market the last couple of years, when it was red hot and they got outbid, they understand the opportunity that there is right now. And I think those are the people that are buying. And that's why we're seeing multiple offers again. It's the people that are just entering the market. They're like, hey, this just doesn't seem right. There's got to be something wrong with this market.
Right. Well, those are the skeptics.
Yeah.
Right.
And the dreamers, right? Because they keep saying, well, I got to wait for the market to go down, where I'm like, it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah,
you're going to be mad that you waited and now it's 30 grand more than what you were looking at before,
Well, not only that, not even if it was the same price, you're not getting 10 to 15 grand towards closing costs or buying the rate down, or 20 grand, whatever the price point was before. You're not going to get that. You can get that if you add it to the purchase price, but then you have to worry about whether the value is going to come in.
Yeah, that's another question, right? I mean, we're seeing appraisals not come in now. So,
well, in the first few months of the new year, usually when things have went up, they don't. But I just think appraisers are being very protective of numbers, because I know somebody who had an appraisal done on their house just to see what it was worth, and there were houses that sold for 400 to 450, kind of in the same type of house. And they brought hers in at 385, and hers has been totally remodeled, totally everything. It's
no
like,
kid.
Yeah. So, but you got to remember, if you're doing an appraisal just for value versus for a loan or a purchase, they don't really have a price to meet.
Yeah.
You follow me on that?
Exactly. Yeah. They don't have to justify a value you're trying to.
Right. They're just going to come up with a very easy number to meet. They're not going to go, well, this house is 425.
Yeah.
Okay. See what I can do here. Adjust this over here. Okay. I'm at 415. I really tried. I can't do it. Or I got 425.
And now if you're a homeowner and you're listening to this, if you're looking to just establish value, you don't have to pay an appraiser. Feel free to reach out, to me. I'm happy to always run what we call the comps or comparables, and they're going to do the same thing. We can make slight adjustments and get a good ballpark of what your home's worth within a few grand.
Well, I have a AVN thing that I can use too, but it depends on where your house is. And please, I'm not knocking what you said. I'm just saying you have to also understand that appraiser is not going to get it right. If you're in a tract home, very easy to figure the value of your house.
Yeah.
Right. If you're in the College area, La Loma area, Del Rio, certain places that are unique homes, you're not going to be able to do it as easy as what people think. That's more when appraisers really come into play, because they can justify certain things in certain areas that a person, and I'm not talking you, but a regular maybe agent who hasn't done them a lot will say it's worth between this and this and be off on the numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to say, I think that the number one place where I've seen values be off the most is with sellers. And what they think their house is worth. So it's always best to get an objective opinion.
Of course, because everybody, like we said before, the sellers are in the market a year ago and buyers are in a market from a year from now.
Yeah.
Right. But they're kind of coming together. A lot of sellers are understanding where the market is. They're like, I wish I could have put my house on the market 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to a guy who he had an appraisal. What was it? A little over a year ago. And it was at 439 is what his house was valued at. Now it's right around 399, and he's kicking himself for not selling. But I said, hey, still, if you got to move, you got to move. So let's get this household.
Yeah, one of my family members sold their house. Same thing. They were like, it's worth more. Yeah, well, in the College area, sometimes your house is worth a lot, and sometimes it's worth hardly anything, because it just depends on what house is sold around you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the other issue. Because when I had my house appraised, I almost fell over back in, September of last year, because I thought it was 5 something and came in at like high 6 something. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I just got a supplemental tax for the pool going in.
Yeah.
Extra 25,000. Really? I can't get 25,000 from my pool.
Really? Oh, no, tell me about that, man.
No, they raise your value. So when you pull anytime you do anything for your house, right? Improvement to your house, they're going to hit you for the additional value of the house.
Yeah. But but I'm going to say, how do they justify the 25 grand for?
Because that's what the value is, but that doesn't mean, but I can only, and the difference is if it's just like the values have gone up and they can hit you for 3% of whatever the value increases for tax purposes. I think when you actually do improvements, they can hit you dollar for dollar that should be at.
Gotcha.
You follow me?
Okay.
But I mean, if you look at appraisals these days, they're giving a lot more than 75 to 10 grand. They're giving 15 to 20 grand now for pools.
Yeah.
I think inflation.
Yeah.
But speaking of improvements, I think you asked me off camera, what's the 10, what'd you ask me?
The 203K?
Yeah, which one? The full one, the streamline?
So I just heard this recently and just wanted to.
It's been around forever, man. It's been around since as long as I think it's been around for 35 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was originally a 203K, which was all you needed was a foundation and you can do a FHA loan on it and build a house.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's a huge full one. There's only about 1% of the companies out there who will do that because it's a lot. It's like a construction loan. All right. Speaking of that, we do construction loans now, permanent for conventional.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. 10% down. And you can either have the lot, not have the lot, do it all in one. We didn't have it for a while. We had it and we did it for everything, but I hated it. It was not a good program, but now it's with a major company that I use all the time. They know how to do it right. They're the places we can get our stuff done in 9 days or less. Right. So it's the same company. So they know what they're talking about. So it's a program that I can get behind and sell. If you want to build a home, I have the product for that.
Nice.
So your lot can be your down payment too. So if you bought a lot, that could be your down payment. And that we would do that's called a refinance, not a purchase is when you actually are buying the lot and doing everything at one time.
Okay.
And you can do you can do a modular or a stick built. No manufacturers with that.
Yeah.
I did have other programs that had the manufacturers, but again, it was just a nightmare with those.
I can say then they have to be on a permanent foundation, right?
Correct. Yeah. And the one thing about manufacturers, and I know we're getting off subject, but bring me back in a second. On a manufactured home, you have to, and that is a mobile home. It used to be called mobile home prior to June of 79. And then after that, HUD came and said, hey, these are crap. You guys are building them horribly. These are the new standards. Plus, they have to be on a chassis that rolls out and put on site. And then you can put it on a permanent foundation and make it real property.
Yeah.
That's a manufacturer, which also / mobile home. A modular is somebody that comes out on site. This is an example. They're building a stick-built house on site. Well, instead of on site, they take that same thing and build it in a factory and bring it on site and put it together. Because every house is out of squares. You make a house out of squares. So they build them in squares and bring them out and put them all together. So it's 90% finished. You can do one of those with this program.
Yeah.
You can't do the other.
Yeah. Now, obviously here in California, weather normally isn't an issue. Although this year we've had tons of weather. So, I mean, that's great. We need it for our reservoirs, but you think about just production time. Right, just like lost months.
3 shifts. Yeah, but they do 3 shifts a day.
Yeah,
on houses. They can do like 6 houses a day.
Well, my uncle was a framer, and I just remember during the rainy season, man, he wouldn't work sometimes for 2, sometimes 3 months. You know, and it's like that has a that's going to hurt us with the housing shortage. So.
Yeah. Well, the other issues that's definitely going to hurt us. The other issue is I always tell people, if you have contractors, don't ever have them buy a house during December, January, February. It's more like April, May, June through the rest of the year, because that's when they're showing their income. The first few months, they're not back.
You're saying that.
Yeah. So you have to be careful. But back to the 203K. So there's that full version, right? But then there's also what's called a streamline. So if you're buying a house, FHA, you can go ahead and if there's kitchen needs to be remodeled, a bathroom needs to be remodeled, you can use up to minimum $5,000 up to a maximum of $35,000. Okay. The issue is no structural work, no removing walls, right? If it's structural, if it's non-structural, that doesn't count, but you can't do anything structural. under
No,
that program.
that's with the FHA streamline.
That's not. That's the 203K streamline. Don't just say FHA streamline because that's a refinance.
Okay, that's what I heard you say. I was like,
it's called it's 203K streamline.
Okay,
it's the streamlined version of that pretty much 35% of the companies do.
Gotcha.
Where the other one only 1% do.
Yeah. Well, so this morning I was on the MLS and I saw a listing, and in the confidential notes, it says that it's going to need carpet, right? It's going to need new carpet at the house. So I was like, that might actually be an option with something like that.
I would tell you get a gift, not a gift, but is there no carpet in it, or it just
no? There's carpet. It said it needs to be replaced. There's only like 5 pictures, so I'm guessing
is there holes in it?
Shape.
Unless there's not holes in it, if it's just worn, that's okay. If there's holes in it, that's another case.
Yeah,
throw a rug over it.
Yeah, I went into one that said they were accepting FHA offers, and as soon as I went in, half the linoleum was ripped up, and you could see the subfloor. I'm like,
you can't, that you can't do. But what I'd say is, I know when I bought my house from years ago with a VA in Merced, it was for my cousin, and it was totally destroyed by her kids. I was buying it, and during the process, I went in and fixed a lot of stuff. And you can do that, but when the appraiser came out and said it needed carpet and the linoleum, everything, he's like, just get it in the garage and I'll sign it off. I go,
gotcha.
Okay. And so that's what I did. So I had paid for it and put it in the garage, and then they came out and actually installed it.
Gotcha.
So there's ways. If it's carpeting is like $3,000, linoleum's like, max $3,000. I mean, it's not that expensive. Do you really want a little bit? And the thing about the streamlines, 203K and 203K streamlines, the rate's a little bit higher for that streamline, because that's just, for each one of those programs, it's higher than the regular FHA.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it works out with pricing and everything else.
Gotcha.
So if you could get a gift from the seller, or if the seller said, yes, I'll put the carpet in for you, go pick it out. Right.
Yeah.
I would do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You just say, hey, go pick it up, because that takes no time at all to install carpet. You can do that in a day. Right. And do it right between funding and recording. Yeah. You know what I mean? Say, because they'll need it signed off by the appraiser. So you have them sign loan documents, and then you have the appraiser go back out, prove that it's there, and close the loan. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff you can do where I wouldn't do this program, because you need at least $5,000. Now, if it's $10,000, like that's a huge area, that's something different. Yeah. We can talk. Now, there is a conventional version of it, kind of the same requirements, and VA also has a version of it. Okay.
But all of them are going to have higher rates.
Yeah, it's just, in all of them, I still would rather have somebody, have the seller, instead of giving you that money that you're going to get, take some of it back and fix whatever you want fixed.
Gotcha.
Like, because a lot of these people are like, I don't want to mess with anything. Well, what if you have a bathroom that there's dry rot, right? Why do you want to take that on? Because that $2,000 job could now be, the subfloor is all gone, everything else is gone, and now you got to jack it up to replace all those beams going underneath. You have no idea what you're going to get involved with. I would much rather have that on the seller do it than the buyer do it. That's just my take on it. Why, and that's like roof. They're like, they're going to give me money for a roof, and I'm going to do it afterwards. Right. They're going to kick me money towards closing costs. I'm going to use my money for the roof. But you got to be careful. Some of these roofs are tile roofs, and they've never had sheeting on them, right? Because they're so old, or they're shake and other stuff. You might have to, and who knows what the price of plywood's going to go up to, or the other board, right?
Yeah. That was something that we never worried about until last year?
The pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, everybody's doing all this work, and so you never know. I'd much rather have it done for the buyer before it closes than after. Now, we're having issues all over Tuolumne and Calaveras County. Septics, leach fields are failing.
I wonder what.
I can tell you why. All right, so these things have been limping along for years, but we were in a drought for how many years?
Yeah, like
forever. Yeah. Right. And so they were working. Now we're saturated with so much water, they can't absorb their break, and they can't absorb it. So now it's not working. They've always had an issue. They're just coming into an issue now because of how wet it is. Because I remember when we bought our place, there was one around the corner that they said that the leach field failed, and the guy got it for $89,000. This house. Wow. Right. But they were like, it's working. And it was because of the fact that we were, at that point, we were in a drought, and it was a bad drought. Yeah. So So it's just the stuff's going to happen. So if you're selling a house up there and you're on a septic with leach line or anywhere, you need to have it tested before you put your house on the market, because if it's going to have a problem, it's going to have a problem during that transaction. Up there, the problem is it's snowy, it's rainy, it's whatever. They can't do anything.
Yeah.
I have a gentleman who's been in contract twice now. Fell out on the first time because it had a leach line problem, and now the next one he bought, guess what? It has the same problem.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I just closed a transaction where luckily the leach field was okay, but the septic tank had a crack in it. And so they're like, well, the septic tank's 10 grand. If it was a leach field, it'd be like 25. I'm like, ay.
Well, it just depends, because in some places you can get a repair.
Oh, wink.
Just kidding. You never do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, it just depends. They have to have the county come out and do site and soil, make sure that it absorbs it, that kind of stuff. And that can take them a while. Plus that's like $2,000 to do. And if they come out and say, no, now you need to engineer it, and an engineer could be up to $50,000.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's expensive stuff. So be careful what you're doing.
Yeah.
When you're buying that stuff, make sure you have the seller, or if you're the agent for the seller, have them check the leach field and the septic, have it, drained and everything else, and get that report.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's usually good for 60 to 90 days or so, or up to 120. I think it is. We don't need those things to move forward. We only need to, that's why I was telling somebody else, it's if the seller pays the company to have it done and they know how much it's going to be and it's on the seller side and they cut the check to the seller, we can still close.
Yeah.
We don't care as long as it's on the seller side, CD. Can't be on the buyer side. If you hold the money back, right, that's an escrow holdback. That takes approval. There's a max amount of allowed, and all those things come into play.
Okay.
So talk to me before you do anything.
Absolutely, man.
All agents, talk to me before you do anything.
Yes.
Please. It's easier to fix it in the beginning than at the end.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Anything else you want to add today? Did I answer your questions?
Yeah.
All right.
No, hey, now I know that's probably not something we want to do. So.
Not all. I mean, it's a great idea. People were trying, when we were going through the bat with all those houses, there were so many houses out there and they needed work, and flippers were getting them. You could buy it and do it yourself, and that kind of. That's the other thing. You have to have a contractor. You have to be, you have to have all that stuff. So you can't just like, I'm a owner occupied contractor, I can do it myself. No, can't do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed.
No problem. Thank you for asking.